The Deep Space Monitoring Station floated silently in the void between star systems. Its sensors swept through the darkness, searching for any sign of intelligent life. For 3 cycles, the Zephyrian hegemony had expanded their empire, without finding worthy opponents. Most worlds they discovered held only primitive creatures or dead rocks. Commander Vextal stared at the display screen with growing excitement. The sensors had picked up something unusual from a small yellow star in the Outer Rim territories. Radio waves, organized patterns, clear signs of technology and intelligence. Analysis complete, Commander, reported the science officer. The signals originate from the 3rd planet in the system. They call it Earth. Vextal leaned forward in his chair. Show me the classification report. The holographic display filled with data about the distant world. Vextal's excitement quickly turned to confusion as he read the details. The planet had extreme weather patterns, massive storms that could destroy entire cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that spewed poison into the air. The temperature swung from freezing cold to burning hot in different regions. Class 7 Deathworld, the science officer announced. Our computers say intelligent life should not exist there. Vextal studied the readings more carefully. The planet was covered mostly in water, but the water contained salt that would kill most plants. The atmosphere had dangerous levels of oxygen that could cause fires to spread rapidly. Deadly radiation from the star reached the surface. Massive creatures lived in the oceans that could swallow ships whole. Yet the radio signals are clearly artificial, Vextal muttered. Someone is alive down there. The communication officer spoke up from his station. Commander, I have intercepted some of their transmissions. They appear to be sending entertainment broadcasts. Music, stories, moving pictures. Show me. The main screen filled with images from Earth. Vextal watched humans moving around in their daily lives. They looked fragile compared to the powerful Zephyrian warriors. Their skin had no protective scales. They had no claws or fangs. Their bodies seemed soft and weak. They look harmless enough, Vextal said. How many of them are there? Approximately 8 billion individuals spread across 7 large landmasses, the science officer replied. Vextal's eyes widened. 8 billion creatures living on a death world. Either these humans were incredibly tough, or they were incredibly lucky. He suspected it was luck. Send a message to Admiral Kethavar, Vextal ordered. Tell him we have found a new world for the hegemony. Inhabited, but the natives appear primitive and weak. 3 days later, Admiral Kethavar arrived at the monitoring station aboard his flagship, the Iron Talon. The massive warship dwarfed the small monitoring station. Behind it came the full invasion fleet, 200 ships carrying the most advanced weapons in the galaxy. Kethavar was a veteran of dozens of conquests. He had brought entire civilizations to their knees. His reputation struck fear into the hearts of enemies across the galaxy. When he looked at the data about Earth, he saw only another easy victory. Class 7 Deathworld, Kethavar read aloud in the briefing room. Interesting. I have never conquered a Deathworld before. Sir, perhaps we should approach with caution, suggested his chief tactical officer. The classification exists for good reasons. Kethavar waved dismissively. Look at these creatures. They have no scales, no natural weapons, no protective features. If they can survive on this world, imagine how easily we can conquer it. Our technology is far superior to theirs. The intelligence reports showed that humans had only recently developed spaceflight. Their weapons were primitive chemical explosives and metal projectiles. Their ships could barely reach their own moon. Against Zephyrian plasma cannons and energy shields, they would be helpless. Besides, Kethavar continued, 8 billion slaves will be very valuable to the Empire. We can put them to work in the mines and factories. The Admiral studied the tactical display showing Earth's position. The planet had only one small moon and seemed isolated from any allies. Perfect for a quick conquest. How long until we can begin the invasion? Kethavar asked. 6 months to reach their system using hyperspace, the navigation officer replied. Excellent. Begin preparations immediately. I want this conquest completed quickly and efficiently. Over the following weeks, the Zephyrian fleet prepared for war. Weapons were tested and calibrated. Troops trained for planetary assault. Intelligence officers studied human communication patterns to understand their weaknesses. The more they learned about humans, the more confident the Zephyrians became. These creatures seemed to spend most of their time fighting among themselves. Their planet was divided into hundreds of separate territories, each with its own leaders. They had different languages, different customs, different beliefs. They could not even agree on basic things like how to measure time or distance. "They are completely disorganized," reported the intelligence chief. "When we arrive, they will probably surrender immediately rather than work together." Admiral Kethvar nodded approvingly. "A divided enemy is a defeated enemy. Have you identified their major population centers?" "Yes, sir. We have located their largest cities and military installations. A few precise strikes should be enough to break their will to resist." The Admiral smiled, showing his sharp teeth. "Perfect. We will demonstrate our power, accept their surrender, and move on to the next conquest. This should take no more than a few days." As the fleet prepared to depart, some of the younger officers expressed curiosity about the Deathworld classification. They had never seen a Class 7 world before and wondered what made it so dangerous. "Extreme weather, hostile wildlife, unstable geology," explained the chief science officer. "The planet seems designed to kill anything that lives on it. Somehow these humans have adapted to survive there." "Survival and military capability are two different things," Kethavar declared. "Yes, they have learned to hide from storms and avoid dangerous animals. That does not make them warriors." The final intelligence briefing painted a picture of a weak, divided species barely clinging to life on a hostile world. Their technology was centuries behind Zephyrian standards. Their military forces were scattered and poorly equipped. Their governments could not agree on anything important. "They have nuclear weapons," the intelligence officer noted, "but only a few hundred of them. Primitive devices compared to our plasma bombs." Kethvar laughed. "A few hundred nuclear devices against 200 warships with energy shields? They might as well throw rocks at us." As the fleet entered hyperspace and began the journey to Earth, Admiral Kethvar felt completely confident in victory. He had conquered advanced civilizations with powerful technology and united governments. These primitive, divided humans living on a death world would be the easiest conquest of his career. The great ships slipped through hyperspace toward their destination, carrying an invasion force that had never known defeat. In 6 months, they would arrive at Earth expecting to find a weak enemy ready to surrender. They had no idea that the death world had shaped its inhabitants into something far more dangerous than any enemy the Zephyrian hegemony had ever faced. They did not understand that survival on Earth required not just endurance but creativity, determination, and an absolute refusal to give up when faced with impossible odds. The humans did not know the aliens were coming, but when they arrived, Earth would teach the Zephyrians why some worlds are classified as too dangerous for intelligent life to exist. The countdown to invasion had begun. The morning started like any other day for Dr. Sarah Chen at the Deep Space Monitoring Array in Chile. She was drinking her third cup of coffee and reviewing routine data when every alarm in the facility began screaming at once. "What the hell?" Sarah rushed to her console as red warning lights flashed across the room. The main display showed impossible readings. Massive energy signatures appearing at the edge of the solar system. Not 1 or 2 contacts, but dozens. Then hundreds. The computer kept adding new contacts as more ships dropped out of hyperspace. "This has to be a malfunction," whispered Tom Rodriguez from the next station. "The readings show objects the size of aircraft carriers." Sarah's hands flew across her keyboard, running diagnostic after diagnostic. Every test came back clean. The equipment was working perfectly. Something enormous had just arrived in their solar system, and it was not human. Within minutes, every space agency on Earth was receiving the same terrifying data. Phone calls flooded emergency centers around the world. Government officials were dragged from their beds to deal with the crisis. In the White House Situation Room, President Martinez stared at the briefing materials with growing horror. Satellite telescopes were already focusing on the mysterious contacts. The images they sent back defied belief. 200 ships, reported the Secretary of Defense, each one larger than our biggest aircraft carrier. Technology beyond anything we have ever seen. "Are we certain they are not ours?" the President asked hopefully. "Mr. President, we can barely get a shuttle to the International Space Station reliably. These ships crossed interstellar space. They are definitely not human." Across the world, similar conversations were happening in every capital city. Leaders who had spent years arguing about trade deals and border disputes suddenly faced the reality that humanity was no longer alone in the universe. Admiral Kethvar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching Earth grow larger on the main viewer. The blue and white planet looked peaceful and beautiful. Hard to believe such a lovely world was classified as a death world. "Sir, we are receiving multiple radio transmissions from the planet," reported the communications officer. "They appear to be attempting contact." "Let them talk," Kethavar said dismissively. "We will begin the demonstration shortly." The human radio messages filled the alien ship. Greetings in dozens of languages. Offers of peaceful contact. Requests for the visitors to identify themselves. Kethavar listened for a few minutes, then ordered the communications officer to shut off the receivers. "Enough chatter. Begin Phase 1. The first strikes came without warning. Plasma beams lanced down from orbit, targeting military installations around the globe. NORAD headquarters in Colorado vanished in a flash of superheated gas. The Pentagon took a direct hit that left a smoking crater where the building used to stand. Similar attacks destroyed military bases in Russia, China, Britain, and France. In those first terrible hours, humanity learned they were facing an enemy far beyond their ability to fight conventionally. The alien weapons cut through the strongest armor like paper. Their shields deflected every missile and bomb the human military could throw at them. But something strange began happening that Admiral Kethavar had not expected. Instead of surrendering, the humans got angry. At Ramstein Air Base in Germany, Colonel Hans Müller watched alien fighters strafe the runway from his command bunker. Half his aircraft were destroyed, his communications were down, and his air defenses had proven useless against the invaders. "Sir, what are your orders?" asked his aide. Müller looked around the bunker at his remaining staff. Young men and women who had sworn to defend their countries. They were scared, but he could see determination in their eyes. "We improvise," Müller said grimly. "Get me every pilot who can still fly. I do not care if they are flying cargo planes or helicopters. If it has wings and weapons, we use it." Similar scenes played out around the world. In Japan, a destroyer captain named Yamamoto loaded his ship with every explosive device he could find and set course for the alien landing zone. In Australia, Aboriginal trackers began teaching special forces how to move invisibly through the outback. The Zephyrians had expected a quick surrender after their show of force. Instead, they found themselves fighting an enemy that refused to accept defeat. Captain Zexhar led the first ground assault on downtown Los Angeles. His troops were equipped with personal shields and plasma rifles. They had conquered dozens of worlds with ease. Los Angeles should have fallen in hours. Instead, they found themselves fighting from building to building against humans using improvised weapons and desperate tactics. A human child threw a bottle filled with gasoline that somehow penetrated Zephyrian armor. An old man with a hunting rifle managed to take out 2 alien soldiers before being killed himself. "These creatures are insane," Zexhar reported to Admiral Kethavar. "They attack our positions with vehicles, with explosives strapped to their bodies, with anything they can find. They show no fear of death." Kethavar frowned as he read the reports from around the globe. His forces were advancing, but much more slowly than planned. Worse, the humans were learning fast. Already they had figured out how to disrupt Zephyrian communications with electromagnetic pulses. They were capturing alien equipment and trying to reverse engineer it. In a subway tunnel beneath New York City, Professor Janet Williams led a team of scientists and engineers in examining a damaged alien rifle. They had been working for 18 hours straight, surviving on coffee and determination. "The power source is some kind of miniaturized fusion reactor," Williams explained to the military liaison. "If we can figure out how it works, we might be able to build our own versions." Above ground, the battle for Manhattan raged on. The Zephyrians controlled most of the major buildings, but humans still held the underground tunnels, the sewers, and large parts of the outer boroughs. Every alien patrol faced sniper fire, improvised bombs, and humans who seemed to appear out of nowhere. The pattern repeated itself in every major city. The aliens had superior technology and firepower, but the humans had something the Zephyrians had never encountered before. They simply refused to give up. In London, civilians worked alongside soldiers to build barricades from buses and cars. In Tokyo, office workers taught soldiers how to move through the subway system undetected. In Mumbai, street children became scouts and messengers for the resistance. Admiral Kethavar studied the tactical displays with growing frustration. His fleet controlled Earth's skies in most of the major cities, but the humans kept fighting. Worse, they were getting better at it. "Sir, we have captured several alien devices," reported his intelligence officer. "The humans appear to be studying them intensively. How is that possible?" They are primitives. Sir, their technology may be primitive, but their learning capacity is extraordinary. They are adapting our weapons and equipment to work with their own systems. Kethvar slammed his fist on the command console. This was supposed to be a simple conquest. A few days of fighting followed by total surrender. Instead, his forces were bogged down in urban warfare against an enemy that seemed to get stronger with every defeat. The first captured Zephyrian soldier was brought to a secret facility in the Colorado mountains. Dr. Michael Hassan, a xenobiologist who had been studying theoretical alien life for decades, found himself face to face with a real extraterrestrial. The alien was larger than a human, covered in natural armor plating with claws and sharp teeth. It was clearly evolved for combat. But when Dr. Hassan began his examination, he made a startling discovery. This creature is from a low-gravity world, Hassan reported to the military commanders. Look at its bone structure, its muscle density. It is incredibly strong, but only in light gravity. Here on Earth, it is operating at a significant disadvantage. That information spread quickly through the human resistance networks. The aliens might have better weapons, but they were fighting on a world that was literally weighing them down. As the second week of invasion began, Admiral Kethvar received reports that would have been impossible to believe a month earlier. Human resistance groups had successfully ambushed several alien patrols. They were building improvised weapons using captured alien technology. Most shocking of all, they had actually recaptured several small towns. How many casualties have we taken? Kethvar asked his aide. Over 3,000 dead, sir. Another 5,000 wounded. Kethvar stared at the numbers in disbelief. 3,000 Zephyrian warriors dead, killed by primitives with inferior weapons. In all his previous conquests combined, he had lost fewer than 100 soldiers. Sir, perhaps we should consider withdrawing and returning with a larger force, suggested his tactical officer. Absolutely not, Kethvar roared. We are the Zephyrian hegemony. We do not retreat from primitives. But even as he spoke those words, Admiral Kethvar was beginning to understand why Earth was classified as a Deathworld. It was not just the hostile environment that made it dangerous, it was the creatures that had learned to survive there. Captain Zexhar crawled through the rubble of what used to be downtown Seattle, his breathing heavy in the thick mask that filtered Earth's poison atmosphere. 3 weeks into the invasion, he was beginning to understand why his species classified this world as a death world. It was not just the weather, though the constant rain in this region was driving his troops insane. It was not just the hostile wildlife, though his soldiers had learned to fear the massive creatures humans called bears and the venomous snakes that seemed to be everywhere. It was the humans themselves. A sound echoed through the ruins ahead. Zexhar raised his plasma rifle and signaled his squad to spread out. The sound came again, a low whistle that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. Contact left. One of his soldiers shouted before a human projectile took his head off. Zexhar spun toward the sniper's position, but the human was already gone. These creatures moved through their destroyed cities like ghosts. They knew every tunnel, every basement, every hidden passage. They had turned their own ruined homes into a maze of death traps. Above him, something moved in the shadows of a collapsed building. Zexhar aimed his weapon upward, but a human dropped from behind, landing on his back with a crude knife. The blade should not have been able to penetrate Zephyrian armor, but somehow the human had sharpened it with fragments of alien metal. Zexhar threw the human off and fired, but his shot went wide. The human rolled behind cover and disappeared again. In seconds, the entire squad was under attack from multiple directions. Fall back! Fall back! Zexhar ordered. But his communications were being jammed by some kind of electromagnetic device the humans had built. By the time the Zephyrian reinforcements arrived, Zexhar's squad was gone. The humans had vanished back into their urban jungle, leaving behind only alien bodies and more questions about how primitives were defeating advanced warriors. Admiral Kethvar studied the casualty reports with growing disbelief. In 3 weeks, he had lost more soldiers than in his previous 10 conquests combined. Worse, the humans were not just defending anymore. They were attacking. Explain to me again how they destroyed our supply depot, Kethvar demanded of his intelligence officer. Sir, they used one of our own shuttles. Somehow they reprogrammed its navigation system and loaded it with explosives. The pilot was a human female, approximately 20 years old. She flew the shuttle directly into our ammunition storage. One human destroyed enough supplies for 1,000 soldiers. Yes, sir. And sir, She was laughing when she did it. Our security cameras recorded her final transmission. She was actually laughing as she died. Kethvar could not understand it. Every species his empire had conquered valued individual survival above all else. When faced with superior force, they surrendered to save their own lives. But these humans seemed to consider their own deaths acceptable losses if they could hurt their enemies. The pattern was repeating across the planet. Human civilians were joining the fight alongside their military forces. Children were carrying messages through war zones that would terrify veteran soldiers. Old people were volunteering for suicide missions. Entire families were fighting together, protecting each other with a ferocity that shocked the Zephyrian troops. In the Australian outback, Sergeant Korth led a patrol searching for human resistance bases. His troops were exhausted from weeks of fighting in terrain unlike anything they had ever experienced. The red dirt clung to their equipment. The heat made their armor feel like ovens. Strange animals watched them from a distance with predatory eyes. "Movement ahead," reported the point scout. The Zephyrians advanced carefully, weapons ready, but when they reached the reported position, they found only empty desert and a few scattered human tracks. The attack came from underground. Humans burst up from hidden positions covered in dirt and wearing camouflage that made them nearly invisible. They fought with a combination of captured alien weapons and traditional human tools. Spears tipped with sharpened metal, bows that fired explosive arrows, even boomerangs modified to carry small bombs. But it was not just their weapons that terrified Korth. It was the way they fought. These humans moved like the native animals, appearing and disappearing like mirages. They seemed to know the land better than any map, using every rock and bush as cover. An Aboriginal tracker named Billy Nakamura led the human squad. He was 60 years old, missing several teeth and carried weapons that looked like they belonged in a museum. But he moved through the desert like he was part of it, teaching younger fighters skills his people had developed over thousands of years. "Stay low, follow the wind," Billy whispered to a young soldier. "Country knows how to hide you if you listen." The Zephyrians found themselves fighting not just humans but the land itself. Quicksand appeared where their maps showed solid ground. Flash floods swept away their equipment. Venomous creatures seemed to attack alien patrols while ignoring human forces. Korth's patrol was found 3 days later by another Zephyrian unit. Half his soldiers were dead. The others were babbling about humans who disappeared into the rocks and animals that seemed to follow human orders. Similar reports came from every continent. In the Amazon rainforest, indigenous tribes were teaching special forces how to use poison arrows in jungle warfare. In the African savanna, local guides led refugee columns through routes that bypassed alien patrols entirely. In the Himalayas, mountain climbers were establishing supply lines at altitudes that made alien aircraft struggle to function. Dr. Sarah Chen, now working with an international team of scientists in a hidden bunker beneath the Swiss Alps, made a discovery that changed everything. She had been studying captured alien biology samples for weeks, trying to understand their weaknesses. "They are not adapted for high-gravity worlds," she announced to the assembled researchers. "Look at their bone structure, their cardiovascular system. They evolved on a world with maybe 60% of Earth's gravity." Professor Williams, still working on alien technology despite the destruction of most major cities, looked up from her latest project. "That explains why our improvised weapons are more effective than they should be. They are not as strong here as they are on their home world." But the real breakthrough came when Dr. Chen analyzed alien DNA. Their immune system is incredibly sophisticated, but it is designed for a sterile environment. They have no resistance to Earth bacteria and viruses. Within days, that information reached every resistance cell on the planet. Humans began coating their weapons with ordinary dirt, knowing that Earth microbes would be deadly to alien physiology. They used biological warfare without even understanding it, simply by exposing the invaders to the same germs that human children built immunity to by playing outside. The Zephyrians found themselves fighting on multiple fronts: enemy soldiers, hostile environment, and now microscopic organisms that their medical technology could not identify or treat. Alien troops began falling sick from exposure to common Earth bacteria. What humans considered a minor infection could kill a Zephyrian warrior in days. Admiral Kethvar received the medical reports with growing alarm. His invasion force was being destroyed not by superior weapons but by the planet itself. His soldiers were dying from diseases that did not even exist in their medical databases. "Sir, I strongly recommend we withdraw and regroup," urged his chief medical officer. "We can return with better biological protection. We cannot withdraw." Kethavar slammed his fist on the console. "The hegemony has never retreated from primitives. I will not be the first admiral to run from creatures who use metal spears and chemical explosives." But even as he spoke, Kethavar was receiving reports that made his refusal to retreat look more foolish with each passing day. Humans had successfully shot down 3 alien fighters using modified surface-to-air missiles. They had captured an entire alien outpost in Brazil using nothing but explosives made from fertilizer and fuel oil. Most shocking of all, they had actually boarded and seized a Zephyrian transport ship. The captured ship was currently being studied by human engineers in a secret facility hidden in the Canadian Rockies. Dr. Amanda Foster, an aerospace engineer who had been working on experimental propulsion systems before the invasion, led the team trying to understand alien technology. "Their power systems are based on controlled fusion," Foster explained to the military commanders. "Incredibly advanced, but the principles are similar to our own research. We can work with this." Within weeks, humans were not just using captured alien weapons. They were building hybrid devices that combined human engineering with alien technology. Earth's industrial capacity, damaged but not destroyed, began producing weapons specifically designed to fight Zephyrian forces. The first human-built plasma weapon was crude and unreliable compared to alien technology. But it worked, and it was built using materials and manufacturing techniques that humans understood. Soon, resistance fighters around the world were carrying weapons that could punch through alien armor. Admiral Kethavar watched his invasion force slowly crumble against an enemy that should have been helpless. His soldiers were dying from disease, exhaustion, and weapons that should not have existed. The humans were learning faster than any species he had ever encountered. Worse, they were learning from each other. Despite having no unified government, the human resistance groups were sharing information at the abandoned subway tunnel beneath Manhattan had become the nerve center of the North American resistance. General Patricia Hayes, former commander of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, studied the holographic display showing alien positions across the continent. The technology was a hybrid of captured Zephyrian systems and human engineering. "Crude but effective. Status report," Hayes ordered. Colonel Martinez stepped forward, his uniform dirty and torn from weeks of underground warfare. "We have confirmed kills on 47 alien aircraft in the last week. The Houston cell successfully captured an alien command post. Most importantly, Dr. Foster's team has completed the first reverse-engineered alien fighter." Hayes allowed herself a rare smile. 4 months ago, she had been planning retirement. Now she was commanding a global resistance movement from a subway tunnel, and somehow they were winning. The transformation had been remarkable. In the first weeks of invasion, humans had fought with desperation and improvised weapons. Now they were fielding technology that could match alien capabilities. More importantly, they were learning to think like their enemies. Captain Lisa Zhao, a former Air Force pilot, had been the first human to successfully fly a captured alien fighter. The learning curve had been brutal. Alien controls were designed for different hands, different reflexes, different ways of thinking. But humans had always been adaptable. "The key is not fighting like them," Zhao explained to a group of new pilots. "We need to fight like us using their tools." Human tactics had evolved beyond simple resistance. They were now conducting coordinated operations across multiple continents. A satellite communications network, built from a combination of surviving human technology and captured alien equipment, linked resistance cells from Tokyo to São Paulo. In the mountains of Afghanistan, Malik Rahimi led a group of fighters who had been perfecting guerrilla warfare for generations. The rocky terrain and hidden caves provided perfect cover for hit-and-run attacks, but now they had weapons that could destroy alien armor and technology that let them communicate with allies around the world. "These invaders are like the Soviets, like the Americans before them," Malik told his fighters. "They have better weapons, but they do not understand the land. We make the mountains fight for us." The Zephyrians were learning that their conquest was becoming a nightmare. Every day brought new casualties, new equipment losses, new evidence that the humans were not just surviving, but growing stronger. Admiral Kethavar stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching reports flow in from around the planet. His fleet still controlled Earth's skies, but that control was becoming meaningless. The humans had learned to hide so effectively that orbital bombardment was hitting empty buildings while the real targets moved through underground networks. "Sir, we have lost contact with the garrison on Madagascar," reported his communications officer. "What do you mean, lost contact?" "The entire base has gone silent. Last transmission was 18 hours ago." Kethvar studied the tactical display. Madagascar was supposed to be a secure rear area, far from the main fighting. If humans were attacking there, it meant they had developed global reach capabilities. The truth was even worse than he suspected. A joint force of Malagasy resistance fighters and international special operations troops had spent weeks infiltrating the alien base. Using a combination of traditional stealth techniques and captured alien cloaking technology, they had managed to capture the entire facility intact. Commander Sarah Williams, formerly of the British SAS, led the assault team through the alien base. The layout was completely foreign, designed for creatures with different height, different movement patterns, different needs. But humans adapted quickly to unfamiliar environments. "Secure the databanks," Williams ordered. "Everything they know about their technology, their tactics, their homeworlds. We need it all." The intelligence gathered from captured alien facilities was transforming human understanding of their enemies. The Zephyrian hegemony was vast, but not invincible. They ruled through technological superiority and fear, but they had never faced an enemy that refused to be intimidated. Dr. Chen, working with an international team of xenobiologists and computer specialists, made the most important discovery yet. Hidden in alien communication logs, they found something extraordinary. "The hegemony is afraid," Chen announced to the resistance leadership. "Look at these intercepted messages. They are requesting reinforcements, asking for permission to use their most powerful weapons, even discussing retreat options." General Hayes leaned forward. "They are afraid of us? More than that. They are afraid that if word gets out about their losses here, other species might rebel. Their entire empire is built on the myth of Zephyrian invincibility. This intelligence changed everything. Humans were not just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to break an interstellar empire by proving that the Zephyrians could be defeated. The psychological warfare began immediately. Human hackers working with captured alien communication equipment began broadcasting messages throughout the Zephyrian fleet. Images of destroyed alien vehicles, recordings of human victory celebrations, and most demoralizing of all, footage of captured Zephyrian soldiers being treated with human medical care. "We do not torture prisoners," General Hayes explained in a broadcast sent directly to the alien fleet. "We heal them, feed them, and show them what mercy looks like. Something your empire never taught you." The effect on alien morale was devastating. Zephyrian soldiers began to understand that humans did not just fight with ferocity, they fought with honor. Captured aliens were treated according to human conventions of war, given medical care, even allowed to send messages to their families. Admiral Kethvar watched his invasion force slowly dissolve. Desertion rates were climbing. Equipment failures were increasing as human electromagnetic warfare disrupted alien systems. Most importantly, his soldiers were beginning to question their mission. "Sir, we are receiving surrender requests from several ground units," his aide reported quietly. "Surrender requests? Zephyrian warriors do not surrender. Sir, with respect, Zephyrian warriors have never fought an enemy like this before." The truth was becoming clear to everyone except Kethvar himself. The humans had not just survived the invasion, they had turned it into a recruitment tool. Every alien attack that killed civilians created more resistance fighters. Every human victory inspired others to join the fight. In laboratories hidden around the world, human scientists were making breakthrough after breakthrough. Alien technology was not just being copied, it was being improved. Human engineering principles developed over centuries of industrial innovation were being combined with alien knowledge to create hybrid technologies that surpassed anything either species had developed. Alone, the first human-built starship was launched from a secret facility in Kazakhstan, 6 months after the invasion began. It was smaller than Zephyrian vessels, built using human manufacturing techniques and powered by reverse-engineered alien fusion reactors. But it could fly, and it carried weapons. Test pilot Maria Vasquez, formerly of the Russian Space Agency, took the ship on its maiden flight with a simple mission: Attack a Zephyrian patrol vessel in Earth orbit. This is Luna Base to all resistance forces. Vasquez broadcast as her ship engaged the alien patrol. Humanity is going on the offensive. The battle lasted only minutes. The hybrid human ship was outgunned and outarmored, but Vasquez used tactics no alien pilot had ever seen. She flew like a fighter jet pilot, using Earth's gravity well and atmosphere as weapons. The alien ship, designed for deep space combat, could not match her maneuverability in planetary orbit. When the Zephyrian patrol ship crashed into the Pacific Ocean, every human on Earth who had access to communications equipment heard the news. For the first time since the invasion began, they were not just defending their world, they were taking the fight to the enemy. Admiral Kethvar received the report of the destroyed patrol ship with growing panic. Humans had built a starship. Primitives who could barely reach their own moon 6 months ago were now engaging his forces in space combat. "Sir, I have a priority communication from Hegemony Command," his communications officer announced. Kethvar accepted the transmission with dread. The holographic image of High Admiral Vorthak appeared on the bridge, his expression stern and disapproving. "Admiral Kethvar, explain to me why your conquest of a primitive world has taken 6 months and cost us 15% of your fleet." "Sir, these humans are unusual. They adapt faster than any species we have encountered. They refuse to surrender despite overwhelming odds. I have read your reports. Primitives with chemical weapons have destroyed advanced Zephyrian equipment. Our soldiers are dying from diseases that should not exist. Most embarrassingly, you have allowed them to build spacecraft." Kethvar straightened his posture. "Sir, I request immediate reinforcements. Another 50 ships should be sufficient to complete the conquest." High Admiral Vorthak was silent for a long moment. "Admiral, I am not sending reinforcements. I am giving you a direct order. Complete this conquest immediately, using any means necessary. If you cannot defeat these primitives with the forces you have, perhaps you are not the calming." The emergency session convened in the deepest bunker humanity had built, 3 kilometers beneath the Swiss Alps. Every resistance leader who could attend in person was there, while others participated through encrypted communications from around the world. The news that had prompted this gathering was the worst possible. General Hayes stood before the assembled commanders, her face grim. "Our intelligence sources confirm it. Admiral Kethvar has been ordered to complete the conquest immediately. Satellite observation shows the alien fleet repositioning for orbital bombardment." A hush fell over the room. Everyone understood what orbital bombardment meant. The aliens could turn Earth's surface into a dead wasteland from space, killing every human on the planet. "How long do we have?" asked Colonel Chen from the Beijing resistance cell. 72 hours, maybe less. They are moving their largest ships into position above major population centers. Dr. Foster, the aerospace engineer who had led the reverse engineering projects, raised her hand. "General, I have been working on something that might help, but it requires taking an enormous risk." Hayes nodded for her to continue. "We have been tracking Zephyrian communications for months. 2 weeks ago, we intercepted navigation data that includes hyperspace coordinates for their home system. We know where they came from. The implications hit everyone immediately." Professor Williams leaned forward. "Are you suggesting what I think you are suggesting?" "I am suggesting we send them a message they will never forget," Foster replied. "We have enough reverse-engineered technology to modify our remaining nuclear weapons. And we have coordinates for their homeworld." The room erupted in arguments. Some called it suicide. Others said it was impossible. But General Hayes raised her hand for silence. "Explain the plan, Doctor." Foster activated a holographic display showing Earth's remaining nuclear arsenal. Most of the weapons had been captured or destroyed during the invasion, but enough remained for what she had in mind. "We modify every nuclear weapon we have left with alien hyperspace technology. We program them with the coordinates for the Zephyrian home system. Then we launch them all at once." "That is insane," protested a commander from the European resistance. "Even if it works, we would be starting an interstellar war." Hayes looked around the room at faces showing fear, determination, and desperate hope. "The war already started when they invaded our world. The question is whether we die quietly or make sure they remember the price of attacking Earth." Commander Nakamura from the Japanese resistance stood up. "My ancestors believed in a concept called kamikaze, divine wind. Sometimes you must risk everything to save what matters most. The debate continued for hours, but the decision was inevitable. Faced with extinction, humanity chose to strike back at their enemy's homeworld. It was a desperate gamble with odds that no sane species would accept, but humans had never been particularly sane. Dr. Foster led the crash modification program, working with nuclear engineers and alien technology specialists around the clock. The task was incredibly complex. Human nuclear weapons had never been designed for interstellar travel. Alien hyperspace drives had never been designed to work with human technology. "We are literally inventing a new type of weapon," Foster explained to her exhausted team. "A hyperspace-capable nuclear missile that can travel between star systems." The first test was conducted using a small tactical warhead in Earth's outer solar system. The weapon successfully entered hyperspace and emerged at the programmed coordinates near Jupiter. It was crude, unreliable, and probably would not work half the time. It was also the most terrifying weapon any species had ever developed. Meanwhile, Admiral Kethvar prepared for the final phase of his conquest. The planet-killer weapons were charging, drawing power from the fleet's main reactors. In 6 hours, he would give the order that would end human civilization forever. "Sir, are you certain about this course of action?" asked his tactical officer. "Once we begin bombardment, there will be no going back." Kethvar stared at the planet below. After 7 months of war, he had lost 60% of his invasion force to primitives with inferior technology. His reputation was ruined. His career was over, but he could still complete his mission. They had their chance to surrender, he said coldly. Now they faced the consequences of defying the hegemony. The first human missiles launched from hidden silos around the world as the alien fleet began its final approach. But these were not aimed at the ships overhead. Using navigation data stolen from alien computers, they were aimed at a star system 300 light-years away. Humanity's last message to the galaxy was simple and terrible. Coordinates for the Zephyrian homeworld, transmitted on every frequency in every direction, with enough power to reach neighboring star systems. To any species receiving this transmission, General Hayes broadcast from her bunker command post, "The coordinates attached are for the homeworld of the Zephyrian hegemony. They invaded our world and tried to destroy us. We are sending them a gift in return. Earth remembers its enemies." The modified nuclear weapons entered hyperspace in a ragged salvo. Some failed immediately, their hybrid systems unable to handle the transition. Others emerged from hyperspace in the wrong locations, lost forever in the void between stars. But enough worked. Admiral Kethvar was reviewing the final bombardment patterns when his communications officer received an impossible message. "Sir, we are receiving a transmission from Hegemony Homeworld. Priority Alpha emergency status. Put it through." The holographic image that appeared showed High Admiral Vorthak, but something was wrong. His command center was shaking. Alarms were blaring in the background, and his expression showed something Kethvar had never seen before. Terror. "All fleet commanders, return to homeworld immediately." "We are under attack. Repeat, the homeworld is under attack." "Sir, who is attacking you?" Kethvar asked in confusion. "The humans. Somehow they have sent nuclear weapons to our system. They have destroyed 3 orbital stations and are targeting our shipyards." Kethvar stared at the transmission in disbelief. "That is impossible. They do not have interstellar capability. They do now, and they have sent coordinates for our homeworld to every species in this sector of the galaxy. Every enemy we have ever made knows where to find us." The transmission cut off as another nuclear explosion lit up the space behind Vorthak's position. Kethvar realized that in 7 months of fighting humans, he had forgotten the most important lesson of conquest. Some enemies are too dangerous to leave alive. But as his fleet prepared to leave Earth's orbit for the emergency return to homeworld, Kethvar received one final message from the planet below. General Hayes appeared on his communication screen, broadcasting from her command bunker. Behind her stood representatives of every nation on Earth, every resistance cell, every group that had fought against the invasion. "Admiral Kethvar," Hayes said calmly, "I want you to understand something before you leave. We did not start this war, but we are going to finish it. Your people attacked our world because you thought we were weak. You were wrong." She gestured to the humans behind her, soldiers, scientists, civilians who had spent 7 months learning to fight an interstellar empire. "We are not the same species you invaded 7 months ago. We have learned your technology. We have studied your tactics. Most importantly, we have learned that we are not alone in the galaxy." Hayes smiled, and it was not a pleasant expression. "You have given us a gift, Admiral. You have taught us that there are other worlds to explore, other species to meet, other challenges to face, and you have taught us that some of those species can be defeated. We know where your home world is located. We know the positions of your colonies. We have the technology to reach them, and we have something your empire has never encountered before. A species that views extinction as just another problem to solve." Kethavar tried to speak, but Hayes continued. "Go home, Admiral. Try to rebuild your shattered fleet. Try to repair the damage we have done to your empire. But remember this, Earth is no longer hiding in the outer rim. We are coming. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but we are coming. And when we arrive in your space, we will remember every human city you destroyed, every life you took, every child you killed when you invaded our world. You wanted to conquer Earth. Instead, you have created your worst nightmare, humans with starships." The transmission ended, leaving Kethvar alone with the terrible knowledge of what he had done. His invasion had not conquered humanity. It had introduced them to the galaxy and given them the technology to explore it. As the remnants of his fleet jumped to hyperspace for the emergency return home, Kethvar wondered if the Zephyrian hegemony would survive what was coming. Humanity had spent 7 months learning to fight aliens. Now they had centuries to perfect those skills. On Earth, in bunkers and hidden bases around the world, humans began planning for a future among the stars. They had survived the Deathworld that created them. They had defeated an interstellar empire that thought they were primitives. Now they would teach the galaxy why some worlds are too dangerous for intelligent life to exist. The age of human expansion was about to begin, and it would be written in fire across the stars.